Good evening, and welcome back to the Poe Museum. Recently, our friend Norm asked if there's ever been any music based on Poe's works. Well, that will be the subject of tonight's installment of the Curator's Crypt. Well, the short answer is yes. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'll leave you with more gratuitous footage of the Poe Museum cats doing Poe Museum cat stuff. Well, since you're stuck around, why don't I show you some of the music from the Poe Museum's collection? And first of all, I'd like to say that Poe considered poetry to be the rhythmical creation of beauty. He considered it to be music. In fact, his most famous poem, Annabel Lee, or another famous poem, Ulalume, they're both subtitled A Ballad, as if he intended them to be sung. He devoted a lot of time to the rhythm, the rhyme, the musical qualities of his poetry, and people who saw him perform said he almost sang the poems while he was on stage. So it's not much of a stretch to think that a lot of composers would come along and add music to his poetry. And that's exactly what happened. So the earliest one in our collection, in our archives here, is from 1850, the year after Poe's death. He's still fresh in everybody's mind. Annabel Lee has just come out. The Bells has just come out. The Raven is still a big hit. And his biography, the first 3 volumes of his complete works, came out all in 1850. And so the earliest one in our collection is The Nightingale. It's sort of a songbook of music sung by Jenny Lind, the Swedish nightingale. You might not know who she is now, but you would have if you were here in 1850 in Europe or North America. You'd know that name. She was having a huge North American tour. She was already well known in Europe. And P.T. Barnum, the guy who later helped found Barnum and Bailey's Circus, the greatest showman on earth, he was the greatest showman on earth because he had talent like Jenny Lind, and he was taking her on a tour in 1850 when this came out. And in number 1 of her series here, we have sheet music for The Raven. So imagine the nightingale was singing The Raven while on stage. And next up, from 1853, so 4 years after Poe's death, is Annabel Lee, adapted to music by E.F. Falconet. And here's the sheet music. So imagine people back then playing Annabel Lee and The Raven at home, singing along. And here's one of my favorite pieces of sheet music. This is The Raven, 1865, by David Scattergood. And what I like about this piece especially is the early engraved illustrations to The Raven. This is one of the first instances, maybe the first, of the Raven appearing in book form. There's another contender that also says they're the first, but this one has the bonus of having sheet music so you can sing along to The Raven at home. And here's Joseph Holbrook's The Bells from 1906. He was an English composer, and he sort of had a thing for Poe because he started adapting a lot of Poe's works to music. And The Bells is a good place to start because it's very musical. You can't read this thing out loud without breaking into song. Give it a try. The tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the rhyming and chiming of the bells. And we just so happen to have found a recording of his version of the bells. So let's listen to it just a little bit to find out what it sounds like. In addition to this, he adapted the poems Ulalume, The Sleeper, The Raven, and Poe's tales The Cask of Amontillado, The Pin, the Pendulum, and The Mask of the Red Death to music. And from 10 years later, that's 1916, we've got To Helen by James P. Dunn. But from 1920, this might be a little bit more of a stretch. This is Lenore's Answer Song from the play Once Upon a Midnight. So it's a play inspired by The Raven, and Lenore she's the dead person in The Raven who's communicating with her lost love back here on Earth. And here is the very brightly colored sheet music for it. Or here's an opera, The Last Voyage of Edgar Allan Poe by Dominic Argento, and we actually have a ticket to a performance of it from 1976. Or the sheet music for a more recent opera based on Poe's works. This is The Bricks from the House of Poe by Peter Rosenblatt. So all sorts of people are adapting Poe's works to music. And it's not just the ones in our collection. There's also Rachmaninoff, Debussy, even Philip Glass. But here's one you might not expect. Here in our archives, we have a review of Leonard Bernstein performing a Poe piece. The review starts out, this is 1977, a leaping, lunging Leonard Bernstein conducted the New York premiere of his latest composition last night. Something for Everybody, American Songfest, whose whole adds up to less than the sum of its often tuneful, jazzy parts. And he has different segments inspired by different poets like Walt Whitman or Langston Hughes, but he finishes up. It says right here in the finale, an exalted hymn for all the singers to Edgar Allan Poe's Israfel. So let's listen to a little sample of that. So maybe your musical tastes are a little bit different than that. Maybe you want to hear something a little bit more experimental. How about the Alan Parsons Project? It's Tales of Mystery and Imagination, Edgar Allan Poe. Just check out the liner notes with all the great Poe artwork and a chronology here of Poe's life. Definitely Poe fans. Let's try a little bit of this.
To my amazement, as to the raven, the shadow hung above my door. Then through the silence, it spoke the one word.
We also have in our collection an album by The Glass Prism, another whole Poe-inspired album where each song is inspired by Poe's works. Let's listen to a little sampling of this.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore.
Or here's another one I dug up, The Pin the Pendulum by Alan Ross. And judging by the artwork and by the fact that everybody in the album cover here is dressed up like they're in the Spanish Inquisition, you think it would be a whole album inspired by Poe's story, but it's not. There's lots of different subject matter. But there is one song right here at the bottom, Oh, I'm Happy Now, with the lyrics based on Poe's poetry. But maybe you like something a little bit heavier. Well, how about Iron Maiden? Murders in the Rue Morgue. Let's listen to a little sample of that. So what do you think? Are you ready to rock with Edgar Allan Poe? Or have you left your favorite Poe song off the list? Let us know down in the comments what you think. And if you'd like to rock with Edgar Allan Poe at the Poe Museum, Why not come to one of our unhappy hours on the fourth Thursday of every month from 6 to 9? It'll be a miserable time. It's kind of like a happy hour, except really melancholy. There's food, drinks, cash bar, everything you'd possibly want. This month's theme is murder mystery. So the museum staff is going to be dropping like flies, and it's up to you to find out who's doing it. And if you'd like to help us preserve precious Poe pieces, like our Alan Parsons Project album, or our 19th century sheet music for Poe-inspired songs, why not support the Poe Museum or become a member at poemuseum.org. And until next time, thanks for joining us. And I leave you with even more gratuitous footage of the Poe Museum cats doing Poe Museum cat stuff.